At the start of this year, I set some goals for myself for my crafting. One of these goals was I wanted to get better at sewing, specifically making myself clothes. And today, besties, I want to try and sew a little. Hiya, besties, and welcome to another video on my channel. So, just like I said, today I want to do some sewing. I have a blouse pattern that I want to try, and I also really want to try and make a Japanese haori. I want to keep adding projects to my project list for the day, but I think we're going to start there with those two patterns. But the blouse I will be making today is the Arles top by Sewing Therapy. I've made a couple of her patterns before, like the tie dress and also the handbook skirt, and I absolutely love them, so I think this top will be great as well. I have some light blue fabric that I will be sewing this out of. That's the plan. And if I like the result, I do have a Hello Kitty fabric that I might make a second one out of as well. But we shall see. Also, for the haori, I will be kind of basing it on a pattern from Dr. Cos, which is a cosplay pattern. But I have also watched a few hours worth of tutorials for actual genuine haoris, and I will be kind of adding on that soaked in knowledge that I now have, as well as making sure it fits on top of my already existing yukata. Now, I will say both my yukata and the haori I intend to make today are more ryokan style, aka loungewear. So no actual pretty going out in public with style, it's just loungewear for wearing at basically at home. That's the plan for that one. But anyway, I want to get going, so first let's print off some patterns and let's start sewing. Let's go! Before we can start sewing or even cutting out pieces, we need to print off our patterns. I have of course linked the patterns I've used today in the description of the video, as well as linked some of the videos I used for my haori projects. Now I'll glue my pattern pieces together. This step I don't mind, I find it kind of fun to line them up. And of course, Cheddar helped me make sure this went smoothly. However, when it comes to cutting them out, girl, not as fun. But we have pattern number 1 all cut out, and I repeated the same steps for pattern number 2 as well. So now we can cut out our fabric, finally, which is also not my favourite part. I think I would have an easier time if I didn't have to use the floor, but it's fine, we got there in the end. And now we can bring out the sewing machine. One thing I have learned since getting more serious with sewing is that prep work is key. I never used to take my time ironing, pinning well, redoing things when they didn't quite turn out the way I wanted them, and I had no idea what stuff like stay stitching was. And this all contributed to me being generally bad at sewing. Bestie, I'm telling you, calling it sewing is a bit of a scam. It should be called fabric prepping and basting and ironing for 5 hours and then sewing for 5 seconds, because that's what it really is, and that's completely fine, because as soon as I figured out the real work is in the prep, not the sewing, I instantly leveled up my skill, and it's also way more fun. This top features some gathers in the front and back, and this is exactly one of those moments where I like to take some extra time to make sure they're nicely distributed before sewing them in place. After finishing that seam, I also removed my original hand-stitched gathering stitches before also top stitching for a finished look. Now it's time to work on the collar. I'm sewing it together and then clipping the seam allowance. Then I turned it right side out, and now let's have some fun. I have never really explored any of the decorative seams on my machine, but it turns out we have a couple different ones to play around with. I want to add a scalloped decorative seam around the collar because hello, cute. And yes, it did indeed turn out really cute. Subtle, barely visible at a distance, but adorable when you do see it. I like it. Now that we have a super cute collar, I will pin it as well as the bias tape to the neckline of my shirt. Again, really taking my time here to line it up correctly. Then we once again clip the seam allowance and make sure the bias tape wraps around nicely. In the same step, I also sew on the facing for the button bands. And here's our first little try on. Right now this is basically a cape, but the collar is done and it's looking nice and I am very happy with it. Now the next step is to make a channel for the elastic. I sew it and then add in the elastic and sew that in place as well. Then we make some side seams and hem the front of the top as well. Another thing that's contributed to me being generally bad at sewing is I get impatient because it really hurts my back to sew on the machine. I did discover a hack for this by standing up to sew. Honestly, a game changer. And now here's another try on. All of the hems and seams are done and the only thing left to do is adding our buttons and buttonholes. I picked out a bunch of matching buttons and then marked out where the buttonholes are going to go on the button band. I always have to make a couple test buttonholes before actually starting. It's not that I forget how to make them, but I like to get the length just right, and if there's any setting I need to change, I notice that before actually sewing on my project. But we're good to go, thankfully, so on we go with the buttons. I also added another decorative seam to the button band. I make sure to line the buttons up according to the buttonholes, then I sew them in place. Typically I'd use a match or a toothpick for this, but I have none at home, so we used a yarn needle this time, but sewing around something that will give a little height is a top tip for easier buttoning and better longevity. After sewing the button in place, I remove my spacing tool of choice, wrap the thread around my stitches a few times and then fasten it off on the wrong side. And that, my friends, is an Arles top all finished. It is a little big, I don't know. I follow the recommended positive ease, but it's pretty roomy and long. But hey, better an oversized top than a too small one, right? Anyway, now it is time for our next project. It is time to make a haori. I am once again cutting out my fabric pieces, and this one has fewer but very long ones. I'll make this garment using a soft cotton fabric since again I am making this for loungewear purposes. For this project, I will say the pattern I used had very bare bones instructions. I did refer to a few different videos about sewing an authentic haori, so I am kind of Frankensteining the pattern with those instructions, which made this much less of a smooth journey, but at this point we all know I like to make things complicated for myself, right? Either way, I got onto the sewing, and for this project I will actually for the first time be making French seams. Yep, I've never made a French seam before, but that's what the authentic tutorials say to do, so that is what I will do. And it was really easy, honestly. It takes double the time because you sew everything twice, but the result is really nice, so I didn't mind it. And basically French seams is all I did for an entire day. This project was a ton of really long straight seams. We have a little try on here. I need to add the collar and the loops what will later hold this together, but we're making progress and so far I am pretty happy. My next step was to add the collar. This was pretty finicky, but with meticulous pinning and taking my sweet time to do that, I had no problem sewing it on. Now I will be folding it over and sewing it a second time, but before we can do that we need to prepare our chi. Chi are little fabric loops that will later be used together with a Haori-Himo, which is a strap or a beaded closure to hold the garment together in the front. I marked where I wanted these and then sew them on simultaneously to sewing the folded collar. The very last step is to hem the haori, and then we gotta make a Haori-Himo. I don't have any traditional Japanese beads, and I also don't have any of the proper closures, so I've dug out my stitch marker findings. I'm also gonna go all Japandi over here, as the beads I will be using are all Viking beads. If you are new to my channel, I also dabble in historical reenactment, mostly the sewing and crafting and dressing in the clothes aspect, so we do go to medieval and Viking markets, and these beads are all from markets like those. After all of the sewing, this was a nice and relaxing little craft to work on, and after not long at all, we have a finished kind of Haori-Himo. promise there will be better footage in just a minute, but I had to try it on at once, so here's the entire lounge set. Friends, we completed our sewing projects and I am honestly so excited about them. Now, like I've mentioned throughout the video, I do think the Arles top that I am currently wearing came out a little bit on the bigger side, but I still really like the results and I will totally make more of these in the future. Now I'm a little bit sad I didn't get to use the Hello Kitty fabric that I mentioned at the start of the video, but now that I'm thinking about it, I feel like this combined with this top could end up just giving pajama, so maybe this fabric is better suited for something else. What I do think would be adorable though, a gingham fabric and maybe just a plain off-white collar to go with that, maybe with some like lace around the trim or something, I don't know. Gonna have to go scout some cute fabrics. And also, of course, we have got to talk about the Haori for a second. I am honestly a little bit bummed. We had a postponed birthday stay at a Japanese style spa here in Stockholm right after I finished sewing this, and my plan was to get some clips of this in the gardens, but it was pouring down with rain the entire time we were there and I didn't get the chance to get any clips of it, so the reveal and styling for the Haori isn't at all what I had planned. Other than that though, I am really happy with what I made. I do think I could have put the two loops for the Haori-Himo a little bit higher up. I should also actually redo the Haori-Himo, as it turned out a little bit too long and it hangs pretty low on my chest, so it needs redoing. But I enjoyed making both the garment and the little bead project, and I am very happy to have these done because I've been planning it for a really long time and I kind of want to at some point make a more correct and way fancier one that's not just for loungewear, maybe. But also this has re-sparked my interest in things like sashiko and other Japanese sewing techniques, so I think maybe I'll be doing some of that on the channel in the not so distant future. We shall see. Other sewing plans I have for the future: I want to make a couple project bags. I need some more project bags. I also want to try paper piecing again, maybe for project bags actually. I do have one project bag that I made with paper piecing and I really like this. It's one of my favorites, so I want more of those. So that's in my future plans. And also, of course, I want to continue practicing my garment sewing skills. We're still pretty noobish over here, I feel like, but I do have a few more sewing patterns from sewing therapy. And I want to make like the tie dress. I've actually made the tie number 1 once before, but I need to alter it because the pockets, I made it with pockets and they aren't really doing me any favors. They aren't sitting nicely on my hips. So I need to redo that situation. But I've actually made the number 1, so I really want to make the 2.0. And all this is of course working toward my final goal of being good enough at sewing garments that I can start sewing EGL clothes. Anyway, I am rambling. Oh my goodness. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Even if we did all of 0 crochet or knitting today. Do you have a favorite sewing pattern you keep coming back to, or one you'd like to see me try on the channel? Since I'm trying to get more into sewing, I'm always eager to hear about pattern recommendations, but let me know your favorites down below in the comments, or tell me what you worked on today. Have you also been sewing, or have you been knitting, crocheting, cross-stitching, drawing? I want to hear about it, or anything else you want to chat about, so go ahead and pop that in the comments down below as well. And if you don't feel like chatting, that is of course always fine too. Go ahead and leave some rain emojis, because the rain thwarted my efforts to get nice footage of my Haori. But I'm also glad we have rain because it's been super dry over here lately, so rain or water emojis please if you don't feel like chatting. And also, while you are in the comments, please also take a tiny second to like the video if you liked it, as that helps me out a ton. Thank you. And also, if you are new here, hi, hello and welcome. I am so happy to have you here today. Thank you ever so much for watching today and for hanging out with me all the way to the end of the video. If you are new and you'd like to keep seeing what I get up to here on the channel in the future with my videos, please consider clicking the subscribe button down below and also ring the little bell to get notified whenever I upload a new video. I do all kinds of fun things on here, like knit and crochet challenges. Sometimes we do sewing or try other new to me crafts. Granted, sewing isn't a new to me craft, I've done it for very many years, but historically I've been not great at it, so kind of. Anyway, I like to try new things on here, but mainly we knit and crochet. So if any of this sounds like something for you, please feel free to stick around and join the little cozy crafting club we got going here on the channel. We also have a Discord for subscribers, which you can find linked in the description down below, and we also have memberships open on the channel in case you'd like to leave some extra support for me and what I do on here. Extra cozy crafting club members get access to a little yarn badge next to your name and stickers to use in comments and chat, extra community posts and such, and super cozy members get all that and also extra members only videos. I've been having lots of fun making little vlogs where I can do things that are kind of a little bit more off topic to the channel, but of course it's also me, so I'm of course also crafting. But anyway, I want to take a moment to thank all of my already existing members for being awesome and for being a member. Members really help me do what I do on here, so thank you all so much. I am so very grateful for this support. If you also want to become a member, there should be a button next to or in place of the subscribe button, depending on if you're subscribed or not. And there is also a link in the description. In the description, you can also find links to my socials as well as my shops on Ko-fi, Etsy and Ravelry. But besties, I've been yapping for 15 years now, so I'm gonna let you go and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me today. You guys take care now, and I will see you again very soon in my next video. Bye!